appears to be oblivious to, but is given by some now as another reason for leaving. London, the capital city of Britain, in which you're too scared to wear a watch walking down the street. Right at the heart of what we intend to do to reindustrialize Britain, using the fact we have rather greater knowledge and we're not stuck to dogma in a way the other parties were, has to be to deal with the energy industry. It's as if a new religion overtook the Commons in Blair's time. It was reinforced by Call Me Dave, Vote Blue, Go Green. We then saw Theresa May put net zero into law without even having a vote on the floor of the House of Commons. It wasn't needed because everybody agreed. And now, of course, we have Ed Miliband, whose fanaticism has taken things to a whole new level. Well, he's in competition with Boris, who wanted us to be the Saudi Arabia of wind. Somehow they all seem to think they're saving the planet. The truth is, what they're actually doing is they are exporting carbon dioxide emissions to manufacturers in companies that operate under lower environmental standards. And just look what it's done to the price. And you'll hear evasion after evasion about the genuine cost of renewable, intermittent, unreliable, renewable energy. But our electricity prices are 4 times that of the United States of America, double that of most of our European competitors. And we've done this to ourselves. It is complete and utter madness. You can have as much solar and as much wind as you want. But frankly, the grid that we have, without spending £2 to £3 trillion updating it, cannot cope with that intermittent energy, which is why we now pay wind turbines to turn off when there is too much wind. The lunatic cost of net zero is continuing deindustrialization. 3 or 4 more years of this, there'll be very little manufacturing left in Britain at all, believe me. And when you think about it, it's really quite mad, isn't it? Because we're not just seeing the closure of our refineries and everybody else, who, for many cases, energy contributes 40% of their overall bill. But we're even conning ourselves now. The Prime Minister talks about AI. We're going to be an AI centre. Oh, no, we're not. Because the new energies, the new industries, use more energy than the old, heavy manufacturing industries. If we want to be involved with data centres, with crypto, we're going to need to use more energy than we've ever done before. And even with this massive amount of expenditure that we've put through subsidy and much else into wind, for example, there were days in January this year when we were importing 25% of our energy, and it was coming from Norway, across the other side of the North Sea, and it was coming from Belgium and from Holland. At some point on the current course, energy won't just be expensive, but the lights actually will go out. So we will scrap all net zero subsidies. We will bring down the cost of energy. We will get rid of the insane North Sea taxes put on by Jeremy Hunt and then a bit added on the top by Rachel Reeves. Let's get the North Sea operating. Let's have a look at some of the new onshore gas fields that have been found in this country. That will produce tens of thousands of well-paid jobs. And we've given notice already to the renewables industry that the current insane AR7 round of wind auctions, where it would appear that Ed Miliband is happy to lock in for the next 20 years prices that are 30, maybe 40 or 50% higher than the current already exorbitant price. We've given notice to those companies that if we're in government, we will scrap those contracts. Longer term, we believe as a party in nuclear energy, but not the way the current non-businessmen and women in government and our administrations administer it. Just have a look at Sizewell, have a look at Hinkley Point, have a look at ballooning cost, have a look at time delay, and look to South Korea. South Korea do nuclear energy with no concessions to safety at 25% of the cost that the British do. Yes, there'll be obstacles with planning and much else, but we absolutely have to do this for our future. Our current politicians are not good enough. Our current politicians don't understand business. Our current politicians don't understand money. Just look at the continuing farce of HS2 to understand just how useless they really are. And we will, if we win that next election, bring in seasoned professionals, good not just at managing money, but with expertise in their own industry. We will bring in private sector specialist knowledge. Of that, there is no question. And generally on business, and I saw this in Brussels, and I'm seeing this too in Westminster, that government only listens to big business. It only listens, in fact, in most cases, to multinationals that aren't really British companies at all. They're the ones that have the ear of business. I guess they're the ones that provide the tickets for Wimbledon, the dinners, and all the rest of it. There is a huge ignored sector in this country, a sector who are the genuine engine for growth in the UK economy, a sector we cannot do without if we're to turn round the current dismal state of the British economy. They are rarely talked about. They are ignored, but they are put upon. Just think of the 30% increase that Mr. Hunt brought in for corporation tax, stifling reinvestment. Just think of this government saying their annual returns now must be quarterly returns with added bureaucracy and added costs. Yet the completely forgotten part of the British economy are the 5.6 million men and women that run small businesses, act as directors, or organize their lives as sole traders. They feel unwanted in almost every single way, and yet they're really important. 60% of employment in the private sector is provided by those 5.6 million small companies. They've been hammered by national insurance rules over the course of the last year, especially those working in hospitality and sectors such as that. And they are embattled by IR35 regulations designed by the Treasury and weak Conservative chancellors who assume that everyone out there who isn't working for a big firm is some kind of crook. Well, I'm sorry, but the IR35 rules are ridiculous. They're stifling innovation. They even drive some in their 50s just to throw their hands up and go into early retirement. We will be the party of small business. We will be the party of risk takers. And look, there is a fundamental, I think, misunderstanding in many, many ways about what business really is. It's as if, well, you're either for business in politics or you're for the worker in politics. It is a fundamental misunderstanding, frankly, at every level. Thriving businesses are good for their employees. And something that I don't think anybody on the front benches would even understand is that small businesses very often treat their employees as well as they would treat their own family. You know, I went through times of having to pay monthly payroll when the staff were earning a lot more than I was. But I wouldn't for a minute want to jettison any single one of them, but hold tight and wait for better times. And we are on the side of working people. We are the party of Alarm Clock Britain. And we want people who are out there working to be genuinely better off working than they are on a whole range of benefits. And it's perhaps on benefits as much as anything else that I was keen to do this speech today. There seem to have been several misunderstandings as to where reform stands on benefits, as if we are the party that will throw around the money like confetti, based, I think, around my comments on the two-child cap and removing it. Now, no one actually listened to what I said. I mean, this happens, I know. But what I said was, we should remove the two-child cap for British working couples. And what I meant by that is for lower-paid couples who are both working, the cost of childcare is exorbitant. It's a disincentive for having more children, disincentive for going out to work. And so I thought a tax credit for a couple where both were working was actually a very, very pro-family policy in every single way. We have already announced cuts to welfare spending, but no one seems to have noticed. So let me use this opportunity to reiterate where we are this morning. My colleague Lee Anderson and Zia Youssef did a press conference earlier on this week dealing specifically with PIP claims, saying that we would take away claims from people who were on PIP for non-major anxiety. That policy alone, given the daily, weekly, monthly rate of new sign-ons, that policy alone would save us $9 billion a year by 2029 under current predictions. And in fact, all disability claims will have to be dealt with in person. All disability claims will have to be reassessed. There'll be no more Zoom, 5 or 10 minutes on a Zoom, and be signed off with some sort of malady. And there'll be no more family GP feeling pressured into signing people off. It'll all be done by independent third party. And you don't think this matters? Well, just think about this. There has been a 50% increase in disability claims in Britain over the course of the last 5 years. We are over-diagnosing many of these things, and in doing so, throwing young British people onto a scrap heap marked victim and replacing what they could be doing with cheap imported foreign labour. It is madness, and I would further point to the Boris wave. Indefinite leave to remain that begins to kick in very, very shortly for 1 million or more people who are in this country who will be able to claim benefits for the whole of their lives and to bring in dependents. This particular cohort could cost up to £200 billion over the course of their lifetime. So in terms of benefit cuts, I think we've just proposed the biggest benefit cuts you've probably ever heard any government do, and I will make this absolute promise. We will substantially cut the benefits bill. We will reduce the size of the public sector. We will look, as we've already started, at public sector pensions, which are a massive liability, and from the early work that Richard has done, we can see these funds are paying fees that are way out of line for what should be appropriate and being badly mismanaged. On the cost of living, we will cut people's energy bills. Now, Keir Starmer said he'd cut them by £300. They're up £285. And if Mr Miliband's wind plan comes in, we'll have locked in higher energy for decades to come. We reckon sensibly we could cut £165 per annum off everybody's electricity bill. But it's in the area of population explosion, it's in the area of mass migration where perhaps we can help a lot. A move towards net zero population increase through migration would ease pressure on rents. It would ease pressure on house price affordability. And we will commit to the biggest building programme of genuinely affordable housing in this country that has ever been seen. Our young people deserve nothing less. So look, we will cut spending. We will encourage growth and entrepreneurship. We want to cut taxes, of course we do. But we understand substantial tax cuts, given the dire state of debt and our finances, are not realistic at this current moment in time. There are some relatively modest things we would do. We would immediately remove IHT from family farms and from family-run businesses. And we will raise the thresholds at which people start to pay tax to begin the process of getting people out of the 16-hour-a-week working debt trap that so many people find themselves in. The state of the finances, the state of the economy is far, far worse than it was in the run-up to a 2024 general election. But be in no doubt, we are pro-business. Be in no doubt, we want work to be rewarded. Be in no doubt, we will do everything we can to bring back confidence and to bring back a change of culture around work, money and success in this country. And be in no doubt that we will have higher quality people in charge of areas over which they've got knowledge than we've seen in this country for many, many decades. Thank you very much. Okay, I'm going to take a few questions. The first one is Harry Farley from the BBC.
Thank you, Mr. Farage. Harry Farley from the BBC. A matter of months ago, you were talking about tax cuts worth billions of pounds. Now you say tax cuts at the moment are not realistic. How can people trust you when, just like the other political parties you criticise, you promise something before an election and then reverse it when it looks like it's difficult?
I didn't say we couldn't afford tax cuts. I said we couldn't afford huge tax cuts. And I mentioned a couple of tax cuts right at the end that I think are vital to be put in place very, very early. You talk about responsible. Well, look, we haven't wrecked the economy. You know, we're not the ones with projected government borrowing that double what it was before the last general election, with unemployment at a 4-year high, with inflation pushing 4%, and with, frankly, yet another tax-raising budget around the corner that'll further dampen growth. So I would say this to you: we are being mature, we are being sensible, and we are not over-promising. But for us not to take account of the dire state of our public finances, that I think would be irresponsible. Do we want to have a smaller state? Yes. Are we going to cut the benefits bill? Yes. Will the civil service be smaller? Yes. Will we get a grip on public sector pensions? Yes. But we can't have massive tax cuts until the markets can see we've at least got these things in hand. Next is Joel Hills from ITV News.
Hello there, Joel Hills from ITV News. You share Richard Tice's concerns about the affordability of public sector pensions. Is your message to teachers, to police officers, to NHS staff, that if they vote reform at the